You're tuned in to RX Radio.
And I think you're the best person to try this new thing with. And what I'm going to be trying is actually inspired by you. And what I'm going to try is I'm going to try to be professional. I think it's fitting for you as a guest today. So I want to just do the thing that podcasts do, where they go, Dr. Sean Pastuch, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Dr. Jordan Shallow. I appreciate it.
How'd you like that?
That was great.
That was good. Wow.
I was getting nervous that you were going to actually end up being too professional and people were going to be like, this podcast is boring.
Well, let's hopefully we don't deliver on that. I don't think it's possible. You and I, you're an interesting one because you were probably you and Active Life RX were one of the first companies/people on my radar when I entered into the social media sphere as a practitioner. It was basically you and K-Star. Yep. That was it. So this is like it was a cool full circle moment to meet you and to have you on the show, was because now we're interacting because you're also one of these people where you're, and not to disparage your digital personality, which is ideal.
Thanks.
You're one of the people that the more I spend time with, the more I like, which is rare, okay. Right?
Okay. I'll take that.
So it's a cool moment to have you on the show because early days as a clinician, I kind of came in during the social media, I don't want to say boom of CrossFit, but those two things were potent at the time that I entered, and you were and are still a figure in the space. Tell the people a little bit about the Sean Pastuch story, and then we'll kind of dive into some specifics.
Yeah, so I remember when you came on the scene too, and I was like, damn, this guy's a stud. Like, I remember the muscle doc. I'm like, he's jacked, he's smart, he speaks well, he moves well, he's good. I remember that. I remember when you hit my radar. And for people to know the full story of Active Life, I think that they can picture it fairly simply if they know your story. We're on the same road. And then there's a fork in the road. One side says, well-paid, highly recognizable professional athletes. You go left and take that road. The other road says, dead broke, highly recognizable in a small cult of CrossFit athletes to the right. And I was like, I'm going to take a right here. And so we just went in opposite directions at that point. But the long story short is I was starting to help the most elite CrossFit athletes on the planet get out of pain without going to the doctor or giving up the gym. That turned into their trainers wanting to know, what are you doing for the client I'm working with in person who's dealing with aches and pains? Started training trainers. That turned into many more trainers and many more clients flying out to see me, which turned into gym owners saying, hey, why is this one trainer in my gym getting results and making money and nobody else is getting results or making money except for following the methodology in the group? So we started mentoring gym owners. That turned into us opening our own brick and mortar to have an example to show gym owners what we're describing for them to do, because by then I had sold off my CrossFit gym and my clinic to pursue this online thing. And I remember my father saying, I think the internet will be around. So I think we're good on that. And now we're back to, we own a brick and mortar. We're about to own 2 brick and mortars, finalizing our lease negotiation. And our average client is a mid-50s male or female whose life is coming together for them, but their body is not keeping up. So they feel like the one thing that's lagging for them is their body. Everything else about them, we would look at these people and be like, how do I be more like them?
So I'm curious, because you kind of highlighted 3 or 4 different avatars of people you interact with, and it kind of, I'm sure it's cyclical and not at any given point in your career you're not only just talking to one of these groups. But I'm curious, what are the strong error signals that you were maybe first with, the athletes that you were dealing with? What did they not understand? And then to the trainers that you then dealt with, what did they not understand? And then to the business owners that you then mentored after that, what did they not understand? And then now, as you kind of circle back and you still practice, we talked about clients that you train, to the general population client, what is the Sean Pastuch shaped hole in people's lives where you come in and you go, you guys are missing this error signal? What are the potent ones at each one of those levels?
Let's start with the athlete.
Yeah.
2 core signal errors. One is load versus capacity. So what happened in the CrossFit space is these athletes were consistently exceeding their capacity and then trying to layer on corrective exercise to fix it. And I'm like, dude, you're overtrained. You can't add training to an overtraining problem and get better. So we had to be able to explain what the corrections would be and how we're actually going to do that without them feeling like they're losing their fitness. The second thing for the athlete is that mentally tough people do not physically do mentally tough things. They make mentally tough decisions.
Hold on. Mentally, so run that back one more time. I think I like that. Mentally tough people.
I would tell them all the time. The most mentally tough athletes are not the ones who can just do the harder workout. They're the ones who can make the harder decision.
Right.
And,
I like
and
that.
sometimes that decision is, I'm not going to train like that today. When all of their friends are. When people had driven 2 hours to come and work out with them and it's not wise for them to do that. When the rest of their team is able to do it, but they're like, I could, but it's not in line with what I'm trying to accomplish here. That's the hard part for the athlete. The signal error for the coach, and I'll give you a simple example about that. This is before I was working with Rich Froning, who, if your audience knows who Rich Froning is, they know. If they don't know, maybe the fittest guy of all time before Matt Fraser came along and made the argument that he might be the fittest guy of all time. I was working with a woman on Rich's team named Lindy Barber. And Lindy had all kinds of ailments, from back issues to knee issues. And we were working her back into a chronic workload that would allow her to start to increase her acute workload. I saw a workout go up on Rich's Instagram account that his team, which Lindy was on, was about to do 1,000 wall balls for time, 2 wall balls in the air at any given time, ball can't touch the ground. I pull out my phone to text Lindy. Before I had a chance to text her, she texts me. She goes, I'm sure you saw it. Don't worry. I'm not doing it. And I'm like, that's toughness. Good for you. Yeah. That year, they ended up taking second place at the games because Rich had some knee stuff that was bothering him, and he would take the responsibility. I don't think it was all his. I got a call from him on Monday, and we started working on the next season, and they won the next season. So that's the athlete error. Then there's the coach error, and the simplest, the easiest way to describe the coach error is it's fucking not about you, man. It's not about you. Yes, you're right. If the athlete would follow exactly the protocol that you're writing out and do it exactly the way that you're asking them to write it out, they would probably get better results from the little tweaks that they want to put in and the way that they want to do it. But they're not going to do it your way. And so you have to meet them where they are and provide them with the best possible program design and mentorship at their level until you've earned enough trust for them to come all the way to where you want to be. And I've seen coaches chase the dogma of, this is the cycles per minute. This is the number of reps per week. This is the volume we have to be at. I'm like, yeah, that works if they'll do it. But they have to believe you first. And then the gym owner. Sorry, go ahead. You have a question?
No. I have a question, but I think I want to go through all the signal error first, and I want to kind of lay them all out and compare.
Sure. So I'm trying to think if I have a specific coach story for that one, but it'd be hard without telling someone's name, and I don't want to do that. We'll come back to it. The gym owner error is they think that the coaches work for them, and they don't.
Interesting.
The coach works for the client. The client's money works for you, and you work for the coach. And so the way I like to think of that is, you know who makes the best coffee in the world?
I mean, how are we measuring the best?
Yeah, exactly. That's fine. It's the barista who smiles when they hand it to you.
Okay, I like
If
it.
If I go to a coffee shop, and there's one pretentious coffee shop next to another one, and one of them has baristas who are they look like they're miserable to be there, and the other one is slightly less good. But the baristas are always happy to see you. They're striking up conversation. They're friendly. They're welcoming. I'm going to that one. And so the best product is the one that people want to participate in. That's going to happen when the coaches on the floor want to be there. And so what happens is, so often trainers can't make a living because the gym owner is like, I got to make my profit, and they're thinking about themselves. And they should. They have to make money too. But you would never go get a job at Amazon if they were like, we'll pay you based on how many packages go out this month. Right? You would never take a job working anywhere if they were like, we'll pay you based on what we make. And by the way, you have no control over what we make. Salesperson, sure. Otherwise, no. But in the fitness world, gym owners like to say, you get paid X number of dollars per session, and you can do as many sessions as you want. We'll even incentivize you to do more. So coaches end up doing enough sessions to just get by, realize doing much more would lead them to burnout, and the best coaches leave the gym to go start their own thing, but they're not business owners, so they don't love it. And then we end up losing most of them to selling insurance because it provides a good return for them.
Or
You know what I mean?
OnlyFans.
OnlyFans too. I heard that's. I mean, I don't have an account. I'm not on there, but I've heard it pays well for 2% of the people who are on it.
But didn't you know everyone is a top percentage creator on OnlyFans?
Can you imagine anything worse, by the way, than saying, I know how I'll make money. I'm going to shake my ass, butt ass naked, on OnlyFans, and then find out nobody wants to see that either.
Yeah. A failed public fornicator is probably as bad as it's going to get. Yeah. At least, I live in San Francisco and homelessness is a real problem here. But integrity is strong. At least integrity is strong. Now, okay, so we kind of have these four. So we have we have the athlete, we have the coach. Now, the last one I wanted to touch on is you've come full circle, and you sort of you've contrasted this divergence in your career where, and I've been to your facility, the one obviously not the new one, but you leaning back into general population, right? Because there's a lot to unpack, I think, with the signal error with general population. How would you summarize the essence of the conversations that you have with your general population clients? What is that signal error?
When you're asking me the signal errors, you're asking me where do I think that the common coach is going wrong, yes?
Yeah.
The education arc is so huge. The delta between what we think that they understand and what they actually understand is so big. And so when we ask them to do things, it begins with the assumption that they understand what we're talking about. And so they're going to do it, and they're going to do it for a long time. I'll give you an example. We think somebody understands what soreness is. You're going to be sore tomorrow. A lot of people in the Gen Pop don't know the difference between sore and injured. And so if they're getting sore, but they're not fitter, tomorrow they can't walk down a flight of stairs. First of all, you overtrained them. But if that is the case, and they don't understand what the benefit of that is, they're questioning you all the way. Is this even good for me? I feel worse all the time. So we provide education on what they're going to feel and what all of that means. In our case, what is pain? So a lot of people most people come to us because they're dealing with chronic pain that everybody else has failed to help them with. And the doctor tells them if it hurts, don't do it. And then the trainer says, don't worry, if it hurts, we can work around it. And they think that they've solved that problem. But what they're both failing to recognize is that the person coming in hears the same thing from both. If it hurts, we're just going to do something else. Do you follow me? Our clients come to us because they want to stop doing something else. They want somebody to validate their belief that things could be better and then show them how. So if you ask 100 people what is pain, what does hurts mean? You get 100 different answers. And so before we can do anything to help them, we have to get on the same page about what we're talking about. Build new language that we can build upon.
So it's not, there's a common thread that ties all these together, and that's communication. Mm-hmm. I'm curious, if you were to have to start over today, you've been at the driver's seat of sort of the change in the arc of the digital business over time, right? And I think you made a really bold and what I think to be a really smart move is to double down on brick and mortar, right? And I think we're seeing this reverberation post-COVID world where the brick and mortar stood the test of time, right? Like brick and mortars are back. We see this kind of the world over. The commercial gym and the social aspect of it seems to be one of the, if not the pillar of health that really, that training stands on above all else. But if you were to start today, how would you approach it? What would be your career arc, knowing what you know now, but putting you into today's landscape? What would you do?
So you're saying I'm starting brand new with all of the education and experience that I already have?
Yeah, in today's landscape.
Yeah. I would do exactly what we're doing now. And I'll tell you why I'm so confident saying that. I had to make a decision about 2.5 years ago about what we were going to do, because we were losing about $30,000 a month as a company. Even though we were doing $250,000 a month at the time, we were losing about $30,000. And I looked at the bank account at the end of 1 month and we had 6,000 left. And so, yeah, not ideal. Now there's a lot of stories in there about that you'd be like, oh well, that explains it, but none of that. Like what really explains it is I was mismanaging the company. So at that point, we had to look at okay, who like we know what we know, we've experienced what we've experienced. Who do we want to be? And the mistakes that I think we were making as a company at the time that we're no longer making are we were still mentoring gym owners. We stopped mentoring gym owners because they'd have to really acutely share our vision and our commitment to it in order to do even 80% of what we asked them to do. And most people don't. So that's out. Let gym owners do their thing. I think brick and mortar at the level that we're doing it, to give people some clarity on the level we're doing it at, the second most expensive gym in our town charges about $180 a month for group. We charge $833. The second most expensive training session in town is roughly $90, and that's like if you buy one. But if you buy a package, it comes down from there. We're $150 a pop, and we don't care how many you buy. And we're the ones with a waiting list in our town where most people can't afford us. We just hired a real estate consultant to help us build out a strategy for brick and mortar build outs. And he said the town that you are in is probably the 11th town I would recommend you open in on Long Island. And if I was going to open businesses like yours on Long Island, I would probably only open 5. So we're doing all of that. We have a wait list. We just hired a chiropractor who left her practice in Virginia to come and work inside of our brick and mortar in New York, which makes 5 full-time staff, all of whom have moved from out of state to work in our business. And no one in town can touch us. Like it's not even close. The more that other businesses in town talk about what they do and why they can help our client also, the more that those clients are driven to us, which is amazing. And I think that brick and mortar is going to stand the test of time when AI comes around and does its thing too. You're going to lose brick and mortars that have bad coaching and that are just, I don't know, easily replaceable, which is we're going to find out is a lot. But I don't think you're going to be able to replace the brick and mortar that requires human to human trust. Those are going to stand the test. And that's what we're over indexed on. Now, the training of the coach is imperative for us to be able to open these brick and mortars. We train coaches for 13 months before they even go into a specialty with us. And everybody who we have working in our brick and mortar has gone through enough of our education for us to feel confident that they're going to do a good job with our client with our team support behind them. So I had the opportunity to do all kinds of other stuff. Before I got into this, my uncle was the CEO of a big investment bank over in Asia. I went out to visit him with my wife at the time, and one of his managing directors was like, hey, don't go home. Don't do this. You stay here. I have an apartment for you. You move into it fully furnished. He's like, bring your little girlfriend if you want. I'm like, that's my wife. He's like, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. He's like, I was 28. He's like, you'll be a millionaire before you're 30. And I said, this isn't how I want to become a millionaire. It's just not how I want to do it. And he goes, okay. And I'll always remember this. And his name. He goes, never let your best year in business be my worst month. So I went back to my uncle's apartment that night, and I'm like, I need you to pull up all of Kyle's last 12 months income. He's like, why? I'm like, he said this to me, and I need to know how much money he made. He's like, you don't. No, you don't. You don't. I said, no, I do. And his worst month the year before was around $800,000.
His worst month.
Yep.
And you got his number? Can I call him?
Yeah, I can give you his contact information. I can show you who he is, and you can go ahead and find his new contact. He owns a securities company now. But he told me, he's like, you're a Jewish kid from Long Island. That's your uncle. It's your God-given right to make millions of dollars in finance. And I just didn't want to be anything like him. So
that's amazing.
I think I'd be doing exactly what I'm doing right now.
Okay, interesting. Now, the thing that really piqued my interest with you, that I think sets you apart from everyone else, because there's the introduction of business mentorship in the social media space, and the proliferation of it is maybe out of control. I don't know if we've gone that far, but it seems to be out of control. The thing that you did that I think solidified the I fuck with this guy, like, and it may be, I'm trying to think of whether or not we'd met in person at this point. I think we had. Was I noticed this, and I think it was a trend that you had continued for years prior, but I just noticed it in the past couple of years. You took a prolonged European vacation with your family. Mm-hmm. Now, I've seen every reel of every, business, from people who are your Hermosis of the world down to like someone with 3 clients who's proclaiming to be some business guru. I've never seen, and maybe it only landed to me this way, but I've never seen a style of content that screams, I understand business, like someone who is just gone. You were like Grenada, then you were in Paris for a bit. I literally, dude, there was a point where your stories get algorithmically put to the top of the order of how many you watch from a certain person. I shit you not, every single day you were the one spot. You were my reality TV. And it wasn't like some quote over music about Warren Buffett and some parroting some business bullshit. It was you, just this Veritas, like, I'm going to the grocery store. I think I still remember what you made one night, because I'm like, holy fuck, if that isn't a sign that you understand business. Because I think at a young age I was taught, well, what is a business? Well, business is something that makes money. And the older I get, I go, no, the business is something that affords you freedom. And there's no more fuck you freedom. Like, I forgot cilantro at the grocery store in Grenada, so I'm going to walk down the cobblestone road. I was like, that to me just screamed like, fuck, yeah, this guy gets it. How do you prioritize? Because, above all else, and we talked about sort of your interactions with, you and the athletes you work with, you and the coaches you work with, you and the business people that you mentor, then you ultimately with your general population clients. But you have a whole network, a family unit that you have to communicate to, up and down, from children and wife and all that. How do you prioritize things, and with that also being a job title of like husband and father and all that? Because that to me is something that really I think sets you apart above all else. You're not this guy hiding in a cave behind his computer optimizing funnels. You're now the proud, if those of you know, and this is how big of a fan of you I am as just a person and a social media and just an influence. You're an influencer. You're an influencer to me. You're now the proud baseball coach. Right. Thanks to your wife. I saw this dying, man.
Dude, oh man. I'll tell that story really quick because I think your audience will like it. Then I'll get to the answer to your question. I get a text message from a mom of one of my daughter's friends. She's like, it's just a picture of an email that says, we need a coach for this little league team. Happens to be my daughter's team. And she's like, we all nominate you. I'm like, all right, well, that's a high compliment. I'll take it. I'm in. I'll do it. And then I get home. My wife tells me, yeah, she reached out to Kim, and Kim was like, you should tell him. So he'll be more likely to say yes if you say it than me, which isn't true. I would have said yes no matter what. Dude, it's a co-ed Little League baseball team, 5th grade to 7th grade. I have 8 girls or 9 girls. No other team has any girls. And we're going up against like 7th grade travel boys. And every once in a while, I'm like, hey, Isla, stand up. Yep, stand up out there in left field. Move over, 3 steps to your left. Perfect. That's good. It's a trip. It's fun to do. But the Spain trip came about because I thought I needed to be the person that you were describing before for so long. The guy who just locks himself in the office and says, I have to outwork everybody who's competing with me for the same bread that we're all trying to eat. And it was if I work 9 hours and he works 10 hours, he wins. And I lived like that, man, for 12 years. And then finally, I had a mentor say to me, what's the point? Like, what's the point of just going for it if you turn around one day and realize that you missed it, no matter how much you got, you know? I could end up in my 60s with all the money in the world, all of the status in the world, and kids who never spend time with me. So I started thinking about it, And after about 6 months of thinking about it, I just came home one day. Oh, no, that's not true. I went to an event in Austin, Texas called Archangel. And I'm sitting at a table. It's like a mastermind event. Sitting at a table with a bunch of strangers talking about parenting and relationships. You're supposed to find a table where you feel like you could both add and receive from the group. And I work really hard at being a good parent and a good husband, so I thought I could add and learn something. The woman sitting next to me hears me say what my goal is, and my goal is to take my family away for an extended stay somewhere else where we could actually learn how to live in someone else's society. And she goes, what are you waiting for? And I was like, it's just the wrong time. And she's like, no, it's not. She goes, your kids are 9, 7, 5, and almost 1. They're young enough to still think that you're super cool and prefer to hang out with you than their friends. And you make enough money and have enough time freedom that the only thing in the way of you going right now is your bullshit story. And she said, and I want to tell you a story. My husband and I had a similar goal, and we kept putting it off. And then one year, our oldest almost died. And we realized in that moment, we have to go now. We have to go because you never know. No tomorrow is promised to us. She goes, so what I would love for you to do is stop lying to yourself and go. So I came home, said to my wife, I'm like, let's pick a place. That was in May of 2014, and we spent New Year's Eve flying to Granada, Spain. We were there until February 5th. Then we went to Seville. Then we went from there to Paris, and we flew home from Paris on February 14th. And it was awesome. I didn't work while I was there. I think I took 4 meetings, all because I wanted to give the space to the person running the company to know that she had the opportunity to be heard. It wasn't for me to be like, I need to know this. It was to give her the mental clarity and the mental ability to say anything she wants to know, she can. I had an agent I was talking to at the time, so I met with her twice. That was it. Otherwise, it was just be with the family, 22,000 steps a day, up and down hills, wearing a kid, pushing a kid, experiencing Granada, Spain.
If not for that person, what do you think would have catalyzed it? Or do you think there would have been a catalyst? Like, what would have been the right time? How would you have, because I guess I have 2 questions. One is, how would you have gone about navigating that goal if not for that aha moment? Like, do you feel as if something would have kind of like knocked you over the head? And then how do you, without going to, I'm assuming this is a once a year thing, how do you navigate your blind spots? Or how do you illuminate your blind spots?
Second question first, mentorship. I think I've probably spent, $500,000 in the last 5-6 years to mentors who've helped me and our team members to think about what we're thinking about and seeing our blind spots. So for me, that's crucial. I don't think you have to spend that kind of money. I think you can find somebody on YouTube or Instagram who you really like and just unfollow everybody else. And then that becomes your mentor. And the aha moment, I don't know. I imagine I missed some aha moments before that one. And it was just like, this is the one that's going to thump you in the forehead with a hammer. The rest of them were like, hey, you should go. Hey, you should go. Because I thought about it many times. And I just never did it. I'd like to think something else would have come along, but I don't know.
Do you have anything now that in your conscious purview? Because I don't like the advice thing. Like, what would you tell your blah blah blah? Because I think that lived experience that shapes you to make that decision. Like the fact that you needed to go through that. Like, I like the story of that. I think there's a takeaway there for people to be open and receptive rather than you telling people what to be receptive of. How do you calibrate for that? Is there a practice? Because you have 4 kids? Mm-hmm. So you have 4 kids, a wife, baseball team, a business, and there's some balance, but there's still, how do you, what does a day in your life look like in trying to future-proof your business at the same time, trying to, be cognizant of what your coaches need, in order to learn and grow, and at every level you interact with people, how do you find the time and space to make sure that future Sean in 5 years can still go to Grenada or still go to wherever, like how do you systematize that? How do you operationalize that space so that you can keep doing that into the future?
Great people. The reality is, to start with, I've had several pivotal moments like the one that we're talking about where I went on vacation. The first one was leaving my clinic. The second, that was the first major one that's still relevant today. The first one was probably opening the clinic. But, there was that. And then there was retiring my wife. She was making $120,000 a year plus really good health insurance, and I wasn't making enough to cover both of us when we did that. And I'm like, well, it doesn't make sense for us to live here and have her drive there. She doesn't like it. Time to stop. And it took her just never complaining, always explaining, and me knowing she is doing that because she would never complain to me. And she's telling me in the best way that she knows how to that she doesn't enjoy her job anymore. And I had to hear it over and over and over and over again. And I don't say had like she was doing anything to me. It was, that's our relationship. I want to know how I can be helpful to you. And finally I was like, you should quit. Fuck it. And she's like, how are you going to? I'm like, I don't know. Just fucking quit. I won't unless you do. If you do, I'll figure it out. And then I think I have really good people around me who will call me on my bullshit and who afford me the ability to speak my bullshit to them and then get responses from it. Like when I told my wife to quit, I immediately called my chiropractic school roommate. I'm like, bro, what am I going to do? I don't make enough money. He's like, bro, you'll figure it out. You figure it out. That's what you do. You're going to figure it out. Stop stressing about it. Just go to work. I'm like, okay. When I was at the pivotal crossroads in my company where I was like, we're back to making money again. We're not hemorrhaging anymore. We're profitable. But I feel like we worked too hard for too long, went through too much shit to have people on staff who aren't all in. And I had 30-something people on, like 34 people on staff at the time. And some of them were really, really in, and some of them were kind of in. I called Don Saladino. And he was like, dude, you need a team that's all in, and the ones who aren't can't be there. And it was the obvious thing that I knew, but I also know I can't go back to Don in 6 months and be like, yeah, haven't made any changes, and expect to ever be able to call him again.
Click, for sure.
About that, right? So it's the blessing and the gift and the curse all at the same time, having people around me who actually pay attention, whose time is valuable, who call me on my bullshit when I have it.
So you mentioned earlier that you have lofty brick and mortar goals, and even made even loftier by the zip code in which you have them in.
Yeah.
That seems to me like an all-in moment, whether it's whether you're staff, whether it's retiring your wife. Does it feel the same? Like, does it feel the same now after making so many all-in moments? Like, I was on a podcast recently with a mutual friend, I think Ben Pekulski, and he talked about the lady in the red dress just gets hotter, right? Like sort of a Matrix reference. Like, do you now, after making all of these like all-in moments, whether it's Grenada, whether it's retiring, with all of those examples, and plus I'm sure many more we don't have time for, does this risk feel the same?
No. It feels like its own risk. I mean, like to give people some perspective, we signed the lease before I saw the bank account read $6,000. And my house was collateral on the loan. So there's something in me that's I wouldn't recommend for other people. But there's something in me that enjoyed the anxiety of that moment. Where I was like, all right, we get to find out what you're all about again. Because the first time we got to find out what I'm all about, it was Hurricane Sandy. The second time I split with my good friend who was a business partner of mine. The third was leaving the clinic and the gym. The fourth was, I don't know, like they just fucking roll into one another. It feels different because that business is able, like the business that we have in Long Beach can pay for all of the expenses of the business that we're going to open in Port Washington, location number 2, if location number 2 made $0. So it doesn't feel like the same seismic balls on the table kind of moment. But at the same time, I was having the conversation with my father today. We go to lunch every Monday. And he wants me to just keep taking more money. Like he's like, you gotta take more money. You gotta put the pool in, dude. I'm like, all right, listen, I'm good. And I'm like, I do have to find the space between taking every dollar from the business and putting it back in and saying every dollar that I take out is an exponent number of dollars back into the business, because I do perfectly well. I do fine. Like I'm not complaining about my income at all. And it'd be nice to have a little bit more. It just would. I live in a very expensive part of the country, and I have expensive taste, and my wife has the Amazon code. It's just reality. You know what I mean? And I have 4 kids.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's the biggest flex. Honestly, biggest flex of all time.
Yes, it's a lot. But I really we are in this for what it is. We're not in this to get rich quick and get out. So the risk really just feels like it's not the business, because I know the business will do what the business does. It's when you asked me before how I future-proof, I can depend on everybody who works in our company. Like they are great at what they do, to the point that I don't really have an inward-facing job. My job is just to make sure that we always have a psychologically safe and inspiring work environment where our team and our clients can pursue a mutually shared goal, and then get onto podcasts like this and talk about it. That's my job. So I really do put, I don't want to call it blind because they've earned it, but complete trust in our team, and that's how I future-proof it.
I'm curious, mentorship's been such like a big part of your navigating these sort of integral moments, these pivotal moments. How do you personally vet for mentors, right? Like, because I feel like, you being, I don't want to say middle ground, but you being someone who is mentoring so many people, and knowing the importance that the work that you do with them has on their trajectory, and knowing, the industry of mentors that they could have fallen under. Like we all know and have heard of like this, the absolute snake pit of mentorship that's out there. How do you then look up to other people, whether it's providing services formally or not providing services, and you reaching out to like, hey, I'd really like to kind of pick your brain. Mm-hmm. What is your process in appraising mentors for you, just given how far you've come, but also understanding the mentee-mentor relationship, being a part of it on the other side?
I ask my friends who can help me acquire this set of skills. I'm looking for very specific things. I'm not like, hey, I need a mentor. I say, for example, most recently I reached out to a bunch of friends. This is maybe 7 months ago. And I said, I need somebody who can help me with the following 3 things. I believe in the following order. Number 1, they need to help me more clearly communicate. I need to be able to share our message in a way that other people can repeat and understand. Number 2, I need to develop the skill of networking. It costs me so much energy to go to events and make friends and keep up with people. So I'm like, I need to either have that cost me less energy or find a different way to do it, because it's expensive for me mentally. And then finally, I need the skill of deal making, because right now we sell to 1 coach at a time. I need to learn how to sell to 100 or 1,000. I need to know who has the attention of 100 or 1,000, the influence of 100 or 1,000. And how do I craft the deal that our company doesn't currently already execute on without destroying the company? So I went out looking for those people. And when my friends would make recommendations, I'd say, what makes you think that that person is good at those things? And then they would share, and then I would interview those people. And I would offer all of them, hey, I would love to meet with you. After they met my friend, make an intro. I'm happy to pay for the meeting. I don't expect you to give me your time for free. Let's schedule a meeting and talk. And I just asked them in that meeting to ask me enough questions so that I could be clear that they can see my blind spots. And there's simple stuff to qualify to disqualify people right away. In one case, a guy got on the phone. He was on a walk. I'm on a Zoom screen. He's on a walk holding his phone. And I'm like, I don't mind that you go for a walk. I do mind that you don't make this call the most important thing on your schedule right now, like I do. So that guy was out. I had somebody who I met with who was just speaking way too mushroomy. Like, I'm into it. I'm down. But like, what did he say specifically? He said, I'm going to be your intellectual sparring partner, and we're going to fly through the cosmos, bro. I'm like, no, we're not. We're definitely not. So, and then there's people who are like, you get on the call and right away they're like, how many leads per month are you getting? I'm like, you're missing it. You're missing it.
Yeah, fucked it.
Yeah. I don't know how to set up an ads manager on Facebook. I don't know how to do it.
Why would you?
But that's my point, right? So I vet them like that.
Interesting. What's your hitting percentage? Like, I'm curious, like, because partially this is like a personal question, because other than watching you and Grenada and like having Don Saladino's phone number, like, I haven't really had formal mentorship. So I am really curious because, I see mentorship, from coach to, whatever the fuck we are, and you being, around for so much further. I see the pitfalls when you're talking mentorship. To mentor you at your business with your problems as specific and niche as they are, and imagine the price tag on that's pretty steep. Does that level have the same problems that, the levels that we operate are? What is your batting average when going to this open marketplace to find a mentor? Like, does it clear out as you get to the top, or is it still okay?
It clears out when you start using recommendations from friends for people for specific skill sets. So the first 3 mentors I ever hired were no good. They were a waste. But that's okay. They weren't a waste in hindsight, because I guess I know what to look for now. The first really good mentor I hired was pivotal in my life. He told me, like, he said, if you want to be better at business, you have to become a better person. Because I was just completely off my rocker.
What did that mean at the time? I'm curious, because like, you're probably, of all the people I associate with, you have your shit together. I obviously don't know you but I'm so curious to see what was your brand of not having your shit together? What did that look like?
I felt like it was me against the world. And so I would act as if it was me against the world. So imagine you're speaking at an event and I'm at the event. I'm in the audience. Instead of saying, he's so fucking good, I need to learn how to do what he's doing, I should make friends with him and just let him rub off on me, I would be like, fuck that guy, I'm better than him. And that would be my mindset about it. And I might ask a question, but the question wouldn't be to give you the chance to prove you're excellent. It would be like a stupid gotcha. You know what I mean?
You're probably so good at that, though. You were probably so good at that.
I was great at it.
Low key.
I'll give you a specific example that hindsight I would have done differently, but still feels cool to talk about. There was a podcast out there that it was 3 guys, 1 medical doctor, I think 2 physical therapists. I'm not exactly sure what the ratio was, but they're smart guys. Smarter than me, for sure. But they were angry at me because I was making claims that I didn't have evidence to back up in terms of like third-party peer-reviewed literature. I'm like, fuck your literature. Like, I'll ask for forgiveness. You can ask for permission all day. And I started listening to their podcast and just to see what it was like, because they asked me to come on. And I'm like, oh, I see. This is kind of like the 3 of us are going to prove this guy's an idiot. So I said, can we get on a pre-podcast call? They said, sure. So we get on the call. And I was like, I'm just curious. And this is the part I would have done differently. I just wouldn't have had that pre-podcast call. I would have been prepared coming in and had much more common sense, common person language to diffuse anything that they would have thrown in my direction. But on the call, I was like, hey, I'm just curious before we get into the podcast. Any of you guys shower on a regular basis? And they were like, yeah, what are you talking about? I'm like, well, no, I'm just curious. Like, if you take a shower. And they said, yeah. I said, all of you? They said, yeah. And I said, that's so wild. They said, why? I said, because I can't imagine there's a world where you have peer-reviewed data that says that your shower actually makes you cleaner, that the water that comes out of your faucet is doing what other water somewhere else would do, that the soap that you use is doing what you claim that it does, and that there's any peer-reviewed empirical data that backs it, what you're doing when you decide the shower is objectively good. So I'm just curious why you fucking do it. And to say the least,
I know we're friends now, but I feel like we could have been we could have been really good friends then. That's amazing.
Yeah, probably. But we did not end up doing that podcast.
I love it. Does any part of you now? You said now you would do it different. My curiosity goes to: does any part of you regret that?
Yeah.
Really
yeah,
interesting.
You know why? I think energy has its way of finding its way around the world. You know what I mean? And there are people out there who I've wronged without meaning to wrong them. And I could have done it better at the time. And those people are still people who, if you met them today, would be like, I'm not about that guy. But I'm not the same guy that they met 8-10 years ago. I don't think that way. I don't even think what I did was that bad back then. But I get it. Like there's an example of one guy in particular. Same thing. Same topic. I was talking about how step-ups, if you can do 20 step-ups on your left with a given weight, and you can only do 2 on your right to the same height at the same weight, I don't need you to squat. I need you to build some balance in left leg and right leg. And this company, who you definitely know, would come at me. It's not your company. They would come at me in my comment section. And I would just say things like, if all of my breathing happened through my mouth, I would probably think the same thing that you do. I would say, like, if my education came from a rock, I would think the same thing that you do. Instead of just saying, hey, I understand where you're coming from, and maybe for the client that you're looking to help, you have a point. For the client I'm looking to help, we might just have to agree to disagree on this. I never went there. I just went straight to, you're so dumb that you're too dumb to know you're dumb.
I think there's wisdom in that. Now, I don't want to posthumously give you a pat on the back, but I want to be the friend on the devil of the shoulder that goes, yeah, fuck yeah. Yeah, fuck yeah. Because I think you skate a really interesting line, because you're, and people who listen to the podcast know that I'm not in the spirit of gassing people up. You are probably one of the smartest people I've met, and not even in the fitness space. Like flat out intelligence, you're probably one of the smartest people I've ever met, because you can, and not just because of this, but you can navigate that shit so well. How do you manage this as well as the brand? Because I know that whatever you wrote was not exactly what you thought. Whatever the comment was that you look back, whatever you said in the shower, that was the C squad of what you could have brought to the table. Like, you could have absolutely obliterated, like, your mental resourcefulness would have you would have left these guys. Someone would have retired or quit from what they were doing. How do you? I mean, it sounds like, you know, you've gone through these trials and tribulations, but even those examples, knowing you, saying that was you know, sort of off the hinges. How do you navigate what you feel, what you think, you know, your opinions, but also balance the idea that, look, I'm responsible for, you know, these people, and my ramification or my actions have not only consequences to me, but consequences to them. Because, like, you know, I've been in public with you in places where I'm like, okay, I think Pastuch picked up on that. That was a really dumb thing for that guy to say. And you just your user interface is so seamless, and you just skate right by it and navigate. Like, you know how to pick your battles really well now, I think. But I know that in your mind, there's like this, there's the devil on the shoulder that just goes, oh, fuck, I would have said this. How do you keep that? Like, what was the process for you to evolve from pre-podcast shower PubMed ID to, like, you know, I have a business and a family and I want to do all this. How do you navigate that space?
Yeah, well, first of all, I want to thank you for that compliment, because, you know, I say this because I mean it. you have a kind of intelligence that I envy when it comes to thinking about movement.
I'm
of the body.
still
No, you
saying
do.
the shit
You
though.
do.
I'm
Dude,
still like I feel
I know,
like I'm where you were 10 years ago.
I think your genius is in one lane, and I think my genius is in an adjacent lane, and we can help similar people in different ways. Like that's what I think. But I see in you, I should say, a lot of the areas that I wish I was just naturally better at. So I appreciate you sharing that with me. The way that I navigate what you're describing is I have the whole conversation now before I say the first thing. That doesn't take me long, but I have the whole conversation. And then I'm like, well, that conversation doesn't go where I want it to go. How about this conversation? No, not that one either. And I keep going in my head until I'm like, I'm good with the way that conversation would go. It doesn't mean that I'm going to say something that you're going to be like, he's really nice and passive and agreeable. No, that's not what we're talking about. But I'm going to say the thing that you are prepared to hear. Whether you like it or not is another story. But I'm going to say the thing that I believe needs to be said in a way that you are willing to hear it. So, for example, instead of saying to somebody, no, that's fucking stupid. What are you talking about? That doesn't go anywhere, right? So what I might say to them is, I need to understand how you got there. And then they'll tell me, and now we can be in a conversation and I can say, oh, I see. So you're thinking XYZ would lead to 1, 2, 3. Is that right? And I say, yeah. I say, that's interesting. In my experience, it hasn't. So it could be that you're doing something I haven't considered yet, or that wouldn't work, but I'm open to you being right.
What catalyzed the change for you? What catalyzed the shift? Because like at a certain point when you're getting on these podcasts, you're someone who has enough success and enough cachet and enough know-how that you're right more times than you're wrong, right? Whatever that looks like, right? How do you go back to the drawing board and be like, you know what? Because it undoubtedly was serving you. What was it that offered you that like kind of turned the lights on? It's like, hey, if we tighten up this communication loop, I'm actually going to get the result that I want. Like, you know, what was it? Was there a catalyst that changed that for you?
Yeah. First of all, that mentor I was talking about told me if you want to be more successful in business, you got to become a better person. I was making 30 grand a year working 80, 90 hour weeks. That's not cool, right? Like, that's not a fun way to live. When your wife is making 55 grand as a teacher at the time. This is pre the better teaching job that we talked about earlier. She's making 55 grand and I'm coming home like at 10:30 at night, getting ready to go back to the gym at 5:15 in the morning, and I'm pulling in 30 grand with a doctorate. Like, that sucks. I'm talking about feeling emasculated. That sucks. And like, hey babe, is it okay if I buy this? Not that you would ever say no, but like that really sucks. So that mentor told me, he gave me and my business partner at the time a Myers-Briggs test. You familiar with it?
Yeah.
So he was like, all right, so the sweet spot is between this number and this number. The red flag is at this number. So let's just say the sweet spot is like -20 to 20, right? He's like, red flags come about at 50. He's like, Sean, you scored an 87 on everything. He's like, you are one of the most high potential, unhireable people I've ever met in my entire life. I'm like, all right, I'll take that. And I asked him to explain it to me. I'm like, I don't get it. I treat everybody exactly how I want to be treated. He goes, yeah, you do. The problem is you're a fucking psychopath and they're not. So they don't want to be treated like that. I said, what's an example of that? And he goes, what would I have to say to you to make you genuinely angry? I'm like, I don't think there's anything you could say to me to make me genuinely angry. He's like, right. What about sad? I'm like, what do you, no shot. You have to tell me someone in my family died.
Right. Dude, that's literally what I thought in my head.
Yeah. And he's like, okay. Do you realize that that's not how most people think? I'm like, no. He's like, I imagine for me to make you angry, I have to punch you in the face. And even then, it would have to hurt. And you would have to perceive me as a real threat to get angry and not to just laugh at me. I was like, yeah. He goes, that's not normal, man. He's like, for some people, you tell them the word no, and they're upset. You have to be able to understand where everybody is on that spectrum and talk to them the way that they want to be spoken to. So I spent a long time, like a year and a half, really making all of my energy, all of it, focus on how do these people want to be spoken to, and asking people, how did it feel when I said that? I want to make sure that that came across the way that I meant it, and being really intentional about my language. That was the big thing. Then, as I got into hiring people and staffing people and leading people, I realized that I have a lot of blind spots. And I hired a leadership coach who was okay. But one of the things that she did that was really valuable is she did a 360 interview with everybody on staff. But the subject was me. It wasn't their performance. It was my leadership. And I told her, I was like, I want you to give me all of it. So I got all of it. And I was like, okay, this is helpful. And then ultimately in our company now, there are only 3 to 4 people of the 24 that I talk to on a regular basis. They protect everybody else from me. And not because I'm a bad person. Like I'd like to believe the team loves me at this point, or at least trusts me and supports me and wants me to be their leader. But a guy needs to fucking vent every once in a while. So I can get on a team with the leadership staff and say, hey, how the fuck does this happen? Without having to say it in a way that everybody else wants to hear it. You know what I mean? And they know this is Sean being Sean because we've trained on me being me in those settings.
Interesting. So like finding a balance between like ABC makes 1, 2, 3 in my experience, blah, blah, blah. And then like, okay, close the door. Close the door. Is it closed? Okay. No one's here? Okay. What the fuck is going on here? Okay. So I like that. I like that because I think too much in like the evolution of personal development as it runs adjacent to business, it sees that, I'm going to call him old Sean. It sees that old Sean as a anchor, as a drawback, as a weakness, but you still keep space for that.
Oh yeah, let's just pretend I was all the way to the left. I swung all the way to the right, and I was like freaking like a Buddhist monk. Like nothing is bad. Nothing is bad. I can be really, really kind and calm, and it was bad for the company, dude, because we didn't have an identity. I was just like, yeah, that could be right too. Right? So now I've swung back to what I think is the middle. For example, I made a post last week that was of a CrossFit coach. I didn't care that it was CrossFit, but it was a CrossFit coach. It was a meme account saying all of the things that he said CrossFit coaches think about their members when they're in the gym. And it was all stuff like he would give them a cue and then they wouldn't listen. He'd be like, oh, yeah, no, you're not going to do that. Okay, yeah, no, you fucking idiot. Like, and there were a lot of coaches who were like, it was an objectively funny post.
Yeah.
But I went in on it. And I was like, this is bad coaching. This is why people aren't hiring you. They are already, like, it'd be one thing if you were like, I work with athletes who are hard chargers who need to be told how it is all the time, every time. Because that's how I want to be coached, just like that. But the people who that audience purports to help and want to help, they're like, if morbidly obese people would just come in, we could save their lives. I'm like, you're so far from understanding those people. You lack the self-awareness to even know that you don't understand those people. And so I made a post all about how like you have to like stop being frustrated with them and start being frustrated with you when they don't take your coaching. And then you will start getting more and more clients. And when they came into the comment section and they were like, dude can't take it. One woman was like, she goes, something like, tell me you can't take a joke without telling me, hope everything else serves your big ego. Like whatever, something like that. And my response was, I'll show you something big. Because I'm like, if you're going to tell me I can't take a joke, you better be able to take this one.
Right. Yeah.
And then to her credit, she was like, I walked right into that one, didn't I? She's like,
Oh, wow.
she goes, I opened the door wide open for that one, didn't I? And I said, everything in my body wants to say the front door or the back door, but I'm too much of a nice guy to type that.
I mean, the levels of inception of that were great. But this is the type of shit I'm talking about. It's nice to know, because I think, you mentioned earlier the old Cosmos guy. Nothing like a good cosmonaut business mentor. It's just really going to, send you LSD and ask you to send pictures of him naked or something. But
that's right. It's on your bar you feel.
It does seem to be that, because I like that, across your trajectory in business mentors, that one of the most impactful was the early one that said you got to be a better person. Mm-hmm. But he didn't say be a monk. He didn't say be Mother Teresa. How do you navigate now where you got a pretty good toggle switch on it seems, right? Like you can logic this response in a way of like, well, you're telling me I take a joke, you better be able to take a joke. How do you navigate the personal development now? It's something that I'm assuming doesn't stop, right? It's not something that you're willfully blind to. Are they separate things now? Like, how do you, as Sean the person, you're a father, you're a husband, you're a business owner, and Sean the business owner, how do you kind of keep inventory and keep stock of, okay, I'm investing time into one thing, how do I keep the other thing afloat?
I find that, for me at least, the more I progress personally, the more that we progress in the business. It is a straight line that is not correlative, it's causative. Because I get out of the way. And I allow people to do what they're great at without getting in front of them. And I get rid of all the financial scarcity. I'm like, yeah, whatever, go. I trust you. Like we're putting this new location in. I don't think we should have a shower in there. I think it's a mistake. The guy who's going to run the business thinks we should have a shower in there. We're going to have a fucking shower. Right? It's his. If it goes wrong, we can remove a shower. But I don't want to be in the position of saying we shouldn't have a shower. And then the only people that he remembers who didn't join are the ones who said, if you had a shower, I would join. And then me and him are like, because I micromanaged over, 16 square feet. Let them do their thing. And maybe he's right. I don't know that I'm right, so maybe he's right. So I get out of the way.
Now, as you make these bigger decisions, is it harder to do that?
No, it's easier because I make the big decision. We're going to do this based on, do I have your support to do this? And if they say anything other than absolutely or their version of that, we don't do it. Because I know I'm not going to be the executor. I'm the visionary. I'm not the implementer. So they have to be on board. And if they're on board and they're excited, I'm excited. Now, when we opened the first location, the person who was in that seat was like, we need our own brick and mortar. I'm like, I don't think we do. He's like, yeah, we do. I'm like, I don't think we do. He's like, yeah, we do. I said, okay, fine. We'll open it. And the whole leadership team came to me. We do. He's right. Okay, fine. I'm like, I'm not running it. Like, I'm not good at that. It's not my job. So you got to find me someone to run it, and you find me a backup for that person. And he's like, this person will run it. I'll be the backup. Well, the guy who led the charge quit as soon as it got hard. So I'm like, well, awesome. I guess we'll figure this out. But the guy who's in there has been in there since the beginning, and he's a fucking stud. You met him at Strong New York last year. Cody. Yes.
Mustache.
No, that was
Mustache
Larry.
guy?
That was Larry. Cody's got a beard. Shaved head.
Oh,
beard.
okay. Yeah. But I mean, they were both great.
Yeah. Mustache guy's Larry, depending on the season. But, so it's easier for me because I'm like, well, it's out of my control. I'm effectively access to the money, and then I get out of the way. So it's easier. The other thing is, when it comes to like public-facing stuff, I have my board of advisors who don't even know that they're on my board of advisors. And it's, if I wrote that and one of them saw it, what would they think? Would they still want to be my friend? Would they still think I'm smart? Would they still think I'm worth telling people about? And if not, Say it differently.
So I guess my big question now is, you seem to have everything roadmap, right? Like, you seem to be able to look around corners. Do you deliberately seek out discomfort? Do you deliberately seek out these challenges? Because it seems like, everything that you, based off your prior experiences, everything you step into now seems easier and easier and easier and easier, even though the absolute risk might be less and less and less and less. Do you ever feel like, and this is a personal question, do you ever feel like that the risk needs to be reflective of your interpretation? Because these are, opening up brick and mortars, when you got a real estate guy going like, really? Here? You're gonna do that? Your ability to say stoic, does that ever get into your head and go, oh, I'm not even, I should think bigger again? Because it's like, it's not rattling you. Do you use your interpretation of risk as a mile marker, or is it like, are you much more calculated that? Like, how do you square that understanding that in the early days, took big risks, your flock will figured it out, big reward. But even though the risk may be on paper bigger, your ability to cope with it is more managed. Do you ever try and traverse that delta and be like, okay, no, we need to really push this? Or is this just conservatism come with experience?
No, it's exactly what you described before. I posted about it today. I have an affliction that I'm not sure I want to shake, but sometimes it's really inconvenient. I'm excellent at living in the future. Excellent. I'm great at living in the future, missing out on the current, like missing out on the present, and disregarding the past. So people, like, it's easy if I'm looking at this from the outside looking in, my wife doesn't work. I live in a multi-million-dollar house. I have a company with 24 employees. I don't have a day-to-day job within the company. We have a brick and mortar that's very successful. We're about to open a second one. I don't have a job in either. I don't know how to run a fucking Facebook ad. And everything seems to go well. I have 4 kids, a wife who doesn't work. I have dinner with my parents every Sunday, and my sister and her kids and her husband. My family calls me when they want to talk something through. My cousins, my aunts and uncles, right? Like, I'm the person everyone comes to. And I spent 7 weeks in Europe last year without working. I'm objectively successful. That is objective.
Yes, very much.
But I wake up in the morning and I'm like, when are you going to fucking do something? Every day. Every day, that's how it feels. And I kind of like that. And at the same time, I have a friend who became a teacher at age 34. And before that, he was just kicking it with roommates. And I'm like, you are the exact, like, he's one of my best friends in the world. And I'm like, I don't even know how you get yourself to get out of bed in the morning. And it's nice. Like, I need that every once in a while.
Interesting. Now, do you ever see that changing?
No. I mean, maybe when I'm looking back on life in my 80s, but I imagine in the last how many years of my life, I'll be looking back and saying, man, that was a fun right, but imagine if we went left.
Well, I'll keep living the left for you, and I'll let you know. But no, you know what, man, you're my canary down the coal mine. It's funny, like, starting my career, looking at social media, watching what you guys were doing in the early days. And the big thing for me that I think both there's only a handful of people that, it's bad, it's only a handful of people I really respected, which is it's actually less now. Your ability to pivot. And I hate to use the word, but I mean, you were pivoting before everyone hit COVID and everyone had to pivot. Like, maybe pivot's not the right word. I think what you guys have done, you've evolved your business model, your strategy. And I think what I admire most is you evolve it around your lifestyle, it seems. Like, you evolve it around that monologue you just did, around the objectification, the objectifying, like, this is what my life is. Dinner with, parents on Sunday and sister and kids, lunch with dad on Monday. Like, that's the purpose to me of a business. Because it used to be to make money, and it was like, no, it was to facilitate whatever I saw freedom as. And it's it's been really interesting to get and a closer and closer view to you as a person and your business over the course of the last I mean, for me, it would have been 10 years, I think. No, I started my Instagram account in 2012. So what's the fucking math on that? 13 years? 13 years?
Your Instagram account just had his bar mitzvah.
Yeah. Shalom. Mazel tov. Yeah. So it's it's been interesting to watch and to the continued evolution of the business as a reflection of you. I think is really cool, and I think hopefully because I think people in the space, that arc of practitioner to business owner is really, I think, drilled into people's head, whether they're coach or clinician, as the arc, right? And I think sharing some of your experiences, and I don't want to say it may break some people from it, but unless you have that spec, like that specification of looking at your school teacher friend going like, dude, I'm good. You woke up today. That's great. Good for you. Yeah. Good for you.
I mean, I'll say there's two things I want to say. One of them is one of the most useful things I ever did for that was defining my success criteria. How do I know I'm being successful? I need something to remind me. And I'm home by 6 p.m. present with my family. That's it. So I know how hard it is for me to be present. I know how much has to go right during the day for me to be present and not thinking about work. So that's a really hard success criteria to hit for me. But that's it. There's nothing more to it. And that was really helpful for me. Another thing is, the way I look at the way that we evolve the business is it really is never fight the flow. Go with that flow. And that flow has taken us into places I never thought I would have been. I would never have opened another brick and mortar. And now we're going to try to open 100 of them. I never would have put my mind into that. And the way that I think one of the reasons why I'll always think the way that I do in our space, like people ask me all the time, what's your exit strategy? I'm like, I don't know, dying, probably.
that'll do.
Yeah, that'll exit. But I see the world in a way where people are oftentimes being bullied, knowingly or unknowingly, by bullies, knowingly or unknowingly. And I don't think the bully wants to be a bully. I think it's just how they end up. And the person getting bullied certainly doesn't want to get bullied. And I see myself as the person who can wake them both up. And the bully in my world is the person who's dealing with aches and pains and is being told by their doctor, if it hurts, don't do it. This is what happens when you get older. Like, find new hobbies, do new stuff. And the coach who says, we can work around that and I can help anybody. I'm like, you don't realize what you're doing to that person. And I want to help all of them because there will always be somebody else who I will see who will say something to me like, if I was doing that, they'd be picking up my body parts around the boardwalk when I was sprinting on Friday morning. I'm like, it doesn't have to be that way, man. Who told you that if you sprinted, they'd be picking up your body parts on the boardwalk? Like, imagine walking through life that way?
Yeah.
Thinking that you're that fragile? Who told that person that? Why'd they choose to believe it? Who okayed it? All of that.
It's an interesting position because I find the majority of my friends now, I refer to them as shepherds. Right? The fitness industry has this douchebag dualism of like, oh, you're either a wolf or a sheep. Right? Like I think of Denzel Washington in Training Day. In Training Day, and he has that moment. It's like, and I think a lot of people abide into that category, and they turn into bullies because they don't want to be sheep. They turn into wolves because they don't want to be sheep. And I think every now and then it takes a shepherd to come along and be like, there's a flock over here. You guys can fuck off. You're cool. I'm not gonna, as long as you fucking you go that way, we'll go this way. So it's an interesting. I think the story of Active Life RX is really interesting because I think it mirrors what success. How to be successful in our space, because the thing is, like, you're not someone who's, what would be the right word? This is maybe the biggest compliment I've ever given someone. You're not a fucking blowhard. which is like, I mean, carve that on the plaque. But it's like that to me, there's a subtlety too, because I'm sure there's people who are listening to this who are familiar, but don't realize the scale of the success you've had. And that in part is even more success, right? The fact that you've been able to do it through the means in which you've done it speaks to it, because you aren't owned by your business. Like, I think the fact that you're not you're not tethered to it, because I think a lot of people find success in this grind culture entrepreneurship, and the fact that your tenets of success personally are reflections of your objective success by everyone else's metrics. So I think it's an interesting, interesting is probably the wrong way. I think it's a refreshing it's like a refreshing message for people to hear, because I do think people see that one road. They just see that one path and go like, oh, this is the only way to do it. And you kind of sit back, in Long Beach going, nope, there's another way to do it.
Well, I've applied to speak at some places, and one of the questions that they ask is like, what are your accolades? Like, what are your certifications, licensures, and accolades? And I'm like, my accolades? And I look over here to my left, which you can't see on the screen, but what I'm looking at, I'll show you one. I have Barry Ehrenberg gave me this trophy that says
Nice.
#1 instructor. He had ALS, and he wanted me to train him so that he would die with dignity. Like that feels like an accolade.
Yeah.
I have a bust of Spartacus over there, not a Spartacus, of Julius Caesar, that Cody, our team lead, got for me, because he told me that there are elements of the way that Caesar led that remind him of the way that I lead. And to
Good
keep
company.
going. Yeah. I have a picture that my kid drew of me teaching her how to ride a bike the day after I taught her how to ride a bike. I framed it, and it's on my wall. I have a card that my friends from chiropractic school, who I thought I had lost touch with, a lot of them, wrote for me when they donated whatever money they could scrap together at the time to help me get through Hurricane Sandy. Frame that. I'm like, these are my accolades. I have a samurai sword from James, who's the guy who I just talked to when I walk to work in the morning, when he's sitting out on his front porch with no one else to talk to. And one day he's like, hey, I got something for you. And he gave me a samurai sword because it was important to him. I'm like, those are my accolades. How do you write those on a fucking application?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But yeah, I think that people would be better served thinking more about how they want to be and less about how they want to be perceived. And then it falls into place. Like I used to worry about what everybody thought. Now I care what very few people think and how I'm received.
Love it. I think that's a good note to end on. I think that's, primacy and recency are what people remember. I think that's a kind of a good punchline. So I first off, I'm very grateful for your time. I appreciate you coming out or coming on and doing this. It's a long time in the work, so I appreciate you kind of staying on a little bit longer. But I'm not going to do the thing at the end of the podcast that everyone does. I'll do it all in the intro. I'm going to let you go out with dignity. So you don't have to do, well, on Instagram, I'm at this. So I'm just going to end with a huge thank you, man. Obviously, personally and professionally, it's been great to kind of follow you and get to know you. People who listen to this podcast. No, I don't fucking like anyone. So it means a lot for you to come on because I fuck with you and I appreciate what you've done. We wouldn't have a business if it wasn't for what you guys did in the early days. So, just kind of extend the flowers for you personally and professionally. So huge thanks, man. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. You quickly become one of my favorite people, man. I mean that.
You're the man.